Last year, tennis's man on the moon was Novak Djokovic, astounding everyone with a remarkable season that echoed those of the greats. Justin Gimelstob met the American legend Pete Sampras to get the lowdown on the man flying high.
Well, Novak Djokovic, one of the greatest years, if not the greatest year in the history of the sport. What impressed you the most about Novak Djokovic in 2011?
I think mentally he's really turned the corner. I mean, he's so strong up in his head. I feel like a few years ago he was a bit up and down. Now I just feel like he's this incredible competitor. As you saw at the US Open, he lost the first 2 sets against Roger, came back and won it.
You always believed in his physical skills.
Yeah, physical, moved great, had a great game, big serve, big forehand, but I feel like mentally he was a bit fragile. And now he's a rock out there.
Best mover in the sport right now?
100%, 100%. I mean, he moves like a cheetah.
And Pete got to impart some words of wisdom firsthand when the new #1 met him in Los Angeles.
He asked a lot about being #1. He asked being on top for 6, 7 years.
That was right when he came #1 after Wimbledon.
Right, and he just asked what I thought about it, what I did to stay #1. I just said, for me, I just wanted it more. No, it was about just keeping it simple. I said I just played my tennis. I didn't say or do much. At my press conferences, I didn't want any distractions. I just wanted to focus on winning. And I just kept it simple. It worked for me. Novak, you're dealing with a country that loves you. It's a different sort of time for you. But for me, in my experience, I just kept it simple.
What about managing the relationships with his competition? Because when you played, you were an island. He's a pretty friendly and charismatic guy. Did you guys talk about how to manage those relationships with his competitors?
Like I said, I'm not going to change him. You know, I was pretty private, as you know, pretty shy. I kept to myself, where Novak's a little bit more emotional out there. I think he can take a little bit of what I said, but I think Novak's doing great. I mean, he's having a great year. And I just said, for me, I just kept it simple. I trained in Florida. I didn't get involved in a lot of different things. I just wanted to be the best player. And I think he heard some of that, but I think he also feels a responsibility for his country to be a spokesperson, everything, a charitable guy. I mean, not saying I wasn't charitable, I was very isolated, and that was just my personality.
What about managing schedule? You talked part about the time commitments, but also about how you peak towards the bigger tournaments. Did he ask you about how you did that? Because you were really known to not play too often, but really peak for the big events.
I did. I said it is about, Novak, it's about your time here and winning majors now. You're to that level where it's about winning majors, staying #1. Davis Cup is important to you, and that's sort of your decision if you play that, but I think he feels like he has to. You know, he's figured it out. He's got a good team behind him. He's a good guy. I really felt him really just a nice person, outgoing, and he's doing great. I mean, he doesn't need to change anything.
He said you're one of the few people that he could talk to. It's kind of rarefied air. How many people can you talk to about being #1 when there's only a handful of guys around that have been, and plus that he'd always looked up to you growing up? Do you have a sense of pride that now you have this guy, the greatest player in the world, and you were a tremendous source of motivation for him and inspired him?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, I don't think of myself as anything bigger than what I did in my career. I felt, you know, I inspired Roger in some ways, and Novak. Listen, I'm pretty humble, as you know, and I don't think myself as any sort of icon. I just put some numbers up that were pretty impressive, being #1 for 6 years and 14 majors. And I think these guys, now that they're in it, like Novak's in it, it's like, how did Pete do that? You know, how do you stay up for 6 years? Roger can relate. But Novak, I tell you, he's 24 now. These next 4, like I told him, these next 4 years.
This is the window. This is the window. If this is the time where you're going to be great, this was when he was going to take that next step.
24 is when mentally you figure it out, physically you're good. And for the next 4 years, until you're 28, 29, I feel like this is your prime. This is your prime real estate, whatever you want to call it. I feel like for the next 4 or 5 years, Novak's going to be in the top 2 or 3 in the world. He's too good. He's a great mover. Mentally, he's figured it out. He's got the whole package.
Novak's hometown of Belgrade was the next stop on the ATP World Tour. This week, the tournament he helped set up 3 years ago was all set for its 2012 edition. Last year's Serbia Open saw the local hero delight his fans as he defeated Spain's Feliciano Lopez in a thrilling final. It was Djokovic's second victory in the 3 years since the event began. But with Novak unable to attend this time, the rest were ready and waiting for their chance to reign in Belgrade.